views expressed on this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other advertisers. You're listening to Transformation Talk Radio.
Voices of Women is a talk radio show that gives voice to the personal stories of women. It will inspire women and enlighten men to follow their dreams and create positive changes in their lives. Whether the audience listens to best-selling authors or a layperson like themselves, they'll realize there are others with similar experiences and feelings to their own. This show will give women tools they can use every day, which will empower them to step out of their boxes and create the changes they desire in their life. Kris inspires women to find their voices, speak up, and become leaders of their own life. Everyone has their gifts to share with the world, and it's time for women to work together to bring honor and respect to the feminine voice, which is within all people, men and women. Topics include personal growth, spirituality, creativity, leadership, and divine feminine. Now here's your host, Kris Steinnes.
Well, welcome to Voices of Women. Today, I'm excited. I'm going to make a special announcement. It's the launch of the Women of Wisdom's crowdfunding campaign. We're raising funds for our 25th anniversary conference so that we can just have a spectacular event this February 16th through the 20th. And, I'd like to just, share, if you believe in raising the feminine spirit and transforming our world, to please consider contributing to Women of Wisdom in our crowdfunding campaign. WOW is one of the longest running women's spirituality conferences in the world. Since 1993, Women of Wisdom has been providing a unique, intimate setting for women to create lasting change in their lives and in the world. And so we'd love for you to help us keep it going. Funds are needed to create this new WOW for the next generation of women to know their power and the importance of their voices. And as each of us grows into our power, there's a ripple effect around the world. So what we do in Seattle does make an impact elsewhere as we all do our work. So consider donating to our campaign. You can just go to womenofwisdom.org, www.womenofwisdom.org, and we appreciate any and all donations. Thank you. Well, today I'm talking about creativity with the author Tami Lynn Kent. She has her latest book is Wild Creative, Igniting Your Passion and Potential in Work, Home, and Life. Tami is the founder of Holistic Pelvic Care for Women and runs an international training program for healthcare practitioners. She's passionate about teaching others to cultivate the creative energy meant to flow through all aspects of one's life and access this beauty and wildness within. She's also the author of Wild Feminine, Finding Power, Spirit, and Joy in the Female Body, and Mothering from Your Center. Her website is www.wildfeminine.com. So welcome, Tami.
Thanks, Kris. It's great to be here.
Yeah, and then you've been on the show before, but that was about your other book, and I wanted to talk to you about this new book. I love the concept of a wild creative. Tell us your story, how you came into this line of work of, working with women and the holistic pelvic care.
And how I got there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's not a journey I could have ever planned. It was more just following a trail and following passion and just continuing to follow it. I'm a women's health physical therapist, which is a subspecialty of physical therapy, and most people haven't even heard of it. I think it should be our basic women's care. Works on the alignment of the pelvic bowl, the muscles, and the fascia. And it's this incredibly important place that doesn't really get the attention it deserves. So I started there working in that as a healer, but when I was working with women's bodies, I found that there was this incredible energy. So at first I came more thinking I was helping with problems and issues and prolapse and things like that, like fixing. But as I would work on women's bodies, I would feel this incredibly potent creative energy, and spent time with it and started studying it and reading and writing. And what I would say, to make a long story short, is I learned to speak the language of the pelvic bowl. And this part of our bodies has such incredible wisdom for us as women, and it's ancient wisdom, but it has modern applications. And that's where I began writing. I wrote a book called Wild Feminine that is all about this inherent creative energy in the bowl and where it gets blocked and where it might get shut down and how we can access it. Then I wrote a book called Mothering from Your Center, which is about the experience of birthing, the birth door, bringing spirits in, and really accessing the energy to help us with that journey. And then, of course, was just immersed in this creative energy. And so wrote Wild Creative as a way to think about accessing this energy in our lives. If we were going to take what is really an inherently ancient energy, this birthing creative energy, but we're modern women, what would that look like? How do we apply it to our lives? And that's what Wild Creative is about.
Mm-hmm. When I was going to ask you, maybe you can explain a little bit deeper, working with the female body relating to creativity.
You mean, what do I mean by that?
Yeah, we'll just share a little bit more about that. And I know some of it was just learning from your clients.
Yeah, I mean, it, really, truly, I came from a more medical model, which tends to be looking at the body as I am the person fixing this issue. I mean, that's a little bit more traditional medical model, is you're not working with the body, you're sort of, you're helping it, but you're fixing it. And that's the tradition I came from. So meaning I was working with muscles and alignment and working where there were restrictions in fascia and helping shift that. That's kind of a mechanical view. It's still very important and powerful and helpful and should be part of our women's health piece that is really missing. A PAP exam is not really give us women's health. We want to go more preventatively and work with alignment. So that was one piece. But then as I started to work with the chi of the body, and that's a little bit more of a holistic model, maybe Chinese medicine would explain that the best, where the body has an intelligence. It has a chi and an energy that you can listen to and you can learn from and you can work with. And that's when you're using the body's wisdom and you're actually accessing it, then you're at a deeper level of healing and of understanding. And as I began to speak that language fluently, I started to understand it more, the actual energetic component. So some people might understand that as breath or presence. When we do meditation, yoga practice, when we're deepening into the breath in our bodies, that's a form of energy. And as you start to work with where is that blocked, where is that flowing, how do I access more flow, how do I work with this block, how do I tap into where it is flowing, it actually often also relates to our lives, how creative energy is flowing in our lives. So there are ways you can kind of look within and look without and start to work in that dance of creative energy and influence and enhance the way you're using that energy in your life, in how you step into your work, in how you are in your intimate relationships, in how you're in your creative partnerships, in how you ponder the dreams you have for yourself and how you step into manifesting those dreams.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I want to, just because of the way you started at the beginning of your book, what was going on in your life to explore this topic yourself, because you start and you end your book with a trip to the ocean with your boys. Mm-hmm. So I'd love for you to share that experience, why you went there, what you learned, what was the, there were synchronistic happenings with nature.
Yeah, the deeper level of sort of alignment. What was happening, and that's sort of in all of my books, I tell stories, and I think stories to me are a profound way to access energy because, we used to sit around the fire and tell stories, and stories held medicine, and often they were told at special times. They were told with special intent. They were often told, to certain people. So stories were a profound way of passing medicine in a tribe. And what happened for me as I began to do this work on a deeper level, I started to have access to stories and stories that kind of came in, and I would say they were from spirit or the creative realm or that unformed place in order for me to share the medicine that I was witnessing. So I began also writing these stories, and one of the stories that took me a while before I could tell it, that's why it's in my third book, Wild Creative, was the story of having a creative block where I was writing this book, Wild Feminine, and I was writing all of this profound information about our bodies that I wanted to share with the world, with women, to understand the potential of what they had within them. And yet it was finding that I wasn't able to get it to a place in the outer realm, so I couldn't find a publisher, and there's kind of a long story in that. But as I went forward, how much of the story you want me to tell, but I went to this experience where I had, maybe I'll just tell this part of the story. I had an agent in New York, and he's someone who's worked with a lot of mind-body authors, and so he believed very much in the work I was sharing. And so these manuscripts were going out all over, particularly to women that were in charge of different publishing houses. And what happened during that time was a very potent experience where there was quite a lot of reaction. A lot of it was negative from the women that were in charge of these different publishing companies, being kind of embarrassed about the idea of the pelvic bowl being sacred. And so this agent had the experience of being surprised as a man and not really understanding it and feeling that he understood the sacredness but hadn't lived maybe in the body of the experience of what women, the shutdown and the shame that women experience that caused them to shut down their feminine. And so I went through birthing my baby boy, and in the days after finding out that it hadn't been picked up by a publishing house, and not only had it not been picked up, but there'd been this sort of reverberation of reaction of comments that were deeply painful, not only to me, but to the idea that even women who were now in places of power maybe had forgotten the sacredness of that place in themselves, that doorway where we bring in babies. And because I had just stepped up to that doorway and given birth, I was feeling both the ache of the incredible sacredness and the profoundness of bringing life through that doorway in my own body, and having sort of the outer view of the forgetting of this place as sacred. And it was exquisitely painful because I was holding this new baby boy. And I remember saying to him, tears running down my face, that I knew it was sacred and his journey was sacred. And I knew from all the women I'd worked with and the things that we were seeing, but the world had forgotten, or at least in certain circles had forgotten. And I questioned how I would be able to keep him knowing that he was sacred and divine and that his pathway here was divine, when the outer world was giving these messages of this earliest time, this earliest place, this earliest beginning as not that way. So it was a pretty, very heavy thing to look directly at when you've given birth. And because of that, I had to go deeper. I could see that it wasn't going to go forward in the way that it was meant to go forward. And not only did it feel like a personal defeat in a way, it felt like a deep defeat of what I could see in women as potential, and an even greater mountain to climb in how to get this information out into the world. So when he was a few months old, maybe about 4 months old, I took my older son and him, and I went to the ocean, to a place where there's a river that runs through Portland, between Oregon and Washington, and it meets the sea. It's a very powerful place, and I went there to pray and to say, here's this amazing thing that we have as women, this doorway in our bodies that has all kinds of medicine for what we need in this time, and I'm not finding a way forward, and I'm a mother with 2 children. Show me the way. If you have any ideas for me, Spirit, I need to know them.
And we need to, I need to stop right now and have our break. We're going to come back and hear the end of the story. This is Kris Steinnes with Voices of Women.
Are you sick of feeling overworked with no motivation? Take a break from the daily grind. Life coach Nicole Eisler is here to provide a healing journey of optimism. Passionate and caring, Nicole is no ordinary soul. Her dedication to helping everyone has no limit. Witness the power of positivity. Tune in every first and third Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific for Positivity Party Radio with Nicole Eisler on Transformation Talk Radio. For more information, visit BigDreamAwakening.com.
It's that time of the year again. The Women of Wisdom Fall Harvest Festival is right around the corner. Join us on October 1st from 10:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. at North Seattle Community College Conference Center. Admission is free. Festivities include arts and crafts, energy healers, intuitive readers, delicious food, and more. Don't miss this fun-filled event. For more information, visit womanofwisdom.org. That is womanofwisdom.org, and we'll see you there.
Do you want to achieve your goals? Do you want to strengthen relationships with others? Do you want to improve your financial status? Colette Marie Steffen is partnering with Mark Kettenbach to bring you an energetic upgrade online experience. Unfold and develop your full potential. Visit energeticupgrade.com today for more information. That's energeticupgrade.com.
Calling all Intuits, healers, and readers, you are invited to the Women of Wisdom Fall Festival. Join us as we celebrate the bounty of our Mother Earth on October 1st at North Seattle Community College. We're looking for a variety of practitioners and experts in the art of energy healings, intuitive readings, and bodywork. If you are a reader, healer, or an artisan selling handmade arts and crafts, we invite you to share your gifts with the Women of Wisdom community. Go to womenofwisdom.org to apply.
Wow. Hey, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the Dr. Pat Show. This is Talk Radio to Thrive By. I'm telling you, I got to pinch myself some days, because when each of us gets called to do something that we so not thought was in our wheelhouse to do for a purpose that's so much greater than us, we get to show up and shine.
If you would like to show up and shine on the Dr. Pat Show as a co-host or sponsor, send us an email to inspire@thedrpatshow.com.
Tune in to The Michael Shane Show the third Tuesday of each month at 11 a.m. Pacific on TransformationTalkRadio.com and connect with the ascended beings to raise your vibration and manifest the life you desire. Get ready to receive healing through the transphysical mediumship of Reverend Michael Shane and the ascended beings. Visit MichaelShane.com. That's MyChael, Shane.com, and call 425-971-6632 to schedule your full healing session now.
Well, welcome back to Voices of Women. I'm talking with Tami Lynn Kent, author of Wild Creative, Igniting Your Passion and Potential in Work, Home, and Life. So, Tami, you were just sharing the story of going to the ocean with your son and your newborn son. And so we want to hear the rest of that story.
Okay. Yeah, and it's kind of a long, powerful one, but I'll try to keep it more brief so that we can talk together. It was a profound moment in my life where I went deeper. I went to spirit and started asking questions instead of to the regular world where sometimes you get blocked and things can't go forward for different reasons. And so I went to pray and ask spirit's help in this journey. And the water began to drum against the shore in a very rhythmic fashion. It sounded like a heartbeat. It sounded like someone drumming. And I looked up, and in that moment, right after the water started drumming, an eagle came from the right and flew down very low along the water. And in the moment that this eagle came, which usually you'll see them up high in the sky, but it was maybe about 5 feet off the ground, flying right in front of us. In that moment, all of a sudden, the whole landscape shifted, and I felt like I was part of the landscape. There was this feeling of incredible wholeness and a feeling that I was at one with everything that was around us. And I knew that this was an answer from Spirit. I still didn't really know how to go forward logistically, but I knew that it was a sign to stay in that presence, to stay in that moment, to stay in that wholeness and follow that. So that's what I began to follow. And Wild Creative is really all of the tools that I used. Starting from that point, I ended up teaching a class that got downloaded right after that experience. And then I followed a deeper path, which eventually led to Wild Feminine finding its way to be published, and then, all of the books coming forward. But it was this unseen path that was more on the realm of the current of energy. And I, through that, learned how to read when was something a true block because you weren't really supposed to go that direction. When was it just time frame that maybe you need to sit with it longer and deepen it? How do you read these signs in this time? And so that's why the story, I then ended up going to the river and the ocean and drumming, and did that several times, and had several times where an eagle met us at the water's edge again. And it guided me through the process of finishing Wild Feminine. And it also guided me through a personal healing journey of just continuing to repair my own feminine nature so that I could read a deeper current, and it was the one that was connected to my soul journey. And that's what I share in Wild Creative, so that in the hope that others will find their way back to when they're finding that they're blocked, or they're finding they're not getting through, or they're finding their dreams are shut down. How do you keep going? What do you do? And a lot of tools are in that book, Wild Creative.
Yes, and thank goodness, what you did of going to spirit. So often the world, it's amazing that here at publishers, in this fear, it's that fear of, oh my goodness, this, and their, like you say, their own shame and woman's shame around this topic of the pelvic bowl, and that it's sacred and all this. That it always amazes me when publishers can't see what women need and what speaks to women.
I think what it showed me, too, because most of the ones that had the strong response were women, and in some cases there was a male publisher who said, I'd like to do this, but my co-partner is having a reaction. I think it showed me, a lot of this was also on the East Coast, which has a different relationship with mind-body medicine than maybe the West Coast does. But it showed me what women have had to sacrifice and give up in order to raise into power in particularly unbalanced masculine structures, patriarchal structures. They've had to cut off, and so it's painful. Actually, I'm sure what happened is it felt painful to even read some of the things I was writing. And we've come a long way even since then. This was 2003, 2004. There might be more opening now. And ultimately, what happened is I self-published Wild Feminine, and then a publishing company, Beyond Words, Simon & Schuster, picked it up, and there was a woman involved in that process who was very strong and understood the impact of this work and really lifted it. So it's just sometimes the journey is not linear. Oftentimes it's not linear. Mm-hmm. But then how do you follow? How do you find your way? When there aren't clear signs, and especially if you're trying to do something that's part of repairing the fabric, like I was, the fabric is not going to hold you because it's not there. You have to weave it, you have to create it, and that is a lot of making your own path, walking in the dark, and you have to learn to read these deeper signs that are there if you know how to speak the language, if you know how to read a deeper place with spirit and with energy flow, then you can find your way. And what I hoped I did in Wild Creative was create somewhat of a roadmap for people to begin that wanted to follow more of their soul journey, their soul path, ways that I did learn to navigate.
Yeah, there's some great tools in there, and I want to get into that because what you talk about is the creative energy field. So I'd love for you to share, so people have a little more understanding of
what that is.
What that is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so one thing I didn't expect to encounter, but encountered quite a bit as I worked in the pelvic bowl with women and I worked on alignment, what I found is there's a creative field in the bowl. So literally there's a hemisphere, a left hemisphere and a right hemisphere that have to do with more the feminine on the left and the masculine on the right. And then there's this deep center where the womb is, which literally is a spirit door where not only do we bring children through, but we bring in the information and the knowledge that we're meant to bring through for our lives. And in some ancient cultures, there was a whole ritual around this. Like there was this healer named Donna Lehio told one of my teachers that his tribe used to listen in the morning to the dreams of the menstruating women because they were understood to have received psychic information during that time that pertained to the whole tribe about different aspects of things they needed to know. And that's something we've pretty much forgotten, that women actually contain this psychic information about their tribe, their people, who's working with them. I think we still see it kind of unconsciously. A lot of times women are the hub in all kinds of things. They are the center, but we've sort of forgotten that they actually have a tool set that makes them different, and that's the pelvic bowl. It's a profound medicine place. I mean, absolutely profound. It has every bit of medicine that woman needs for her life, as well as to weave the creative energy. And then, because we all come in from women, we have a similarly mapped creative field around our bodies, and that's what I call the creative field. And I write about it in Wild Creative because that's both men and women. We all have this creative field around us that is mapped somewhat similarly to the place that we first embody because we weave our body in that space. So we have these hemispheric aspects, the feminine and the masculine, that we want to activate both. Then we want to make sure they're in alignment, working together. They should not be fighting each other. They should be lifting each other up and working together. And then we have this deep soul current that is like the flow that comes through the womb that pertains to the work we're meant to do here. And so, I've learned a lot about how to work with that by working on thousands of women and teaching and sharing. So what I do in Wild Creative is write about how to access that for yourself. How can you tap into that? How can you pay attention to it? How can you work with places that are shut down, whether you're woman or man? We all have this.
Yes, that's great. Yes. And one of the things you talk about is balancing within each of us ourselves the feminine and the masculine. And we kind of, because we live in this patriarchal world and we're such an action-oriented society,
yes.
do, that a lot of your stories you're sharing that women that they're shut down on the left side, the feminine side, and yes. how can they access to balance, bring about that feminine side, which is more of a being place, than a doing place. And so how do you help women with that?
Yeah, I mean, there's general things and then there's individual things. I mean, there's, sort of basic tool sets that we can talk about, and then every person sort of has their own walk with it. But the feminine is more the pure being state, and it does get shut down by early trauma too. So, working on early trauma is, kind of healing that. I call the feminine the deer medicine. It's like the deer. It's exquisite. It's so attuned, and the first hint of danger, it is out of there. So we all have to look at maybe where our deers got exiled, where we lost them, and then bring them back, create a safe space. And by a safe space, I mean, some sort of connection to nature, a home, creative space that you can begin to invite that part of yourself back, the part that is a little quieter, deeply present. Generally, the feminine aspect loves color, loves beauty, loves to create. So whatever brings that alive in you, for some people it's cooking, for some it's gardening, for some it's just being out in nature. It can be creating a home. It can be dancing. It's that deeper aspect and finding out where you maybe lost touch with that and how to bring it back and create space for it every day. Little things every day, like taking a walk, taking a little bit more time to just be, to watch the sky, to be with yourself will bring that feminine forward, and then making space for that on a regular basis, it starts to heal that part.
Mm-hmm. And actually makes the doing part go better, and you will always get that to-do list done. And I find that if I have that time to myself, because my mind would go, oh, I got to get this done, I got to get this done, and you get anxious about it. When you spend that time for yourself and get in the feminine, that masculine part just flows. It flows, and actually, it's supposed to be taking guidance from the feminine. I think that's where we've kind of lost, we've lost a lot of our models, and we've done things somewhat backwards. What most people end up learning through school and sort of work habits and things like that is I've got to suppress the feminine, suppress the desire, the joy, the pleasure, and the needs, and I've just got to get things done, which is sort of this endless to-do list. And then people burn out, and they feel frustrated, and sometimes they waste their energy because they're doing stuff that maybe they didn't need to do if they were in touch with the feminine. If you come into the feminine realm and you receive that first, that's a little bit of meditation, a little bit of breath, a little bit of just being with yourself, whatever, works for you. I like to take a walk in the mornings. That's one thing that helps me touch in with my feminine. But even just taking a few moments and breathing, looking at the sky, and just being with that will ignite that feminine. And then you approach your to-do list. It's interesting how the feminine will guide you. And so often I've had the experience where my feminine is like, don't focus on that, focus on this, and it kind of highlights what's important. And then later I'll find out that for some reason maybe that other task went away or someone else did it, or it's just interesting how it will guide you into a proper flow, and you'll be more efficient with the doing. Yeah, that's great. And it's a real practice and a reminder that it does improve your life in many, many ways. Well, we're going to take another break. This is Kris Steinnes. You're listening to Voices of Women. We'll talk more with Tami Lynn Kent.
Would you like to experience life-transforming adventures in personal expansion and world service? If you do, tune in to learn about magical innate abilities that you can develop and use to make your dreams come true. Joy Elaine is author of the Joy Chronicles, and she's inviting you and millions of others to join her in working with galactic masters, angels, and the Ashtar Command as they assist humanity and planet Earth to achieve their ultimate destination of ascension. For more information about this upcoming event and broadcast, visit joyelaine.com. That's joy, ELAINE.com.
Tune in to The Jen Royster Show, intuitive guidance to inspire your life, each Thursday at 8 a.m. Pacific and 11 a.m. Eastern on TransformationTalkRadio.com. This amazing show is an inspirational hour that will take you on an epic metaphysical journey to discover the spiritual approach to life's greatest challenges. Dr. Jen is an internationally known intuitive counselor, spiritual teacher, and energy healer. Call in for intuitive readings and visit JenRoyster.com for more information.
Are you feeling stagnant or blocked in your love life, career, health, or finances? Experiencing difficulty focusing or setting and achieving goals? Tune in to Spiritual Diagnostics Radio with psychic visionary healers Carol Dorian and Suzanne Evans. Discover the cause and effect of unwanted patterns in life. Tune in every Tuesday at 12 p.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio. For more information, visit spiritualdeed.com.
Are you anxious, worried, or insecure? Hi, I'm Dr. Friedman Schaub. I'm the author of The Fear and Anxiety Solution. Join me for my next breakthrough video seminar, which starts on September 10th. This program has helped thousands of people worldwide to overcome their struggles with anxiety, and I'm certain it can also help you. If you're ready to be free again and have a stronger foundation of inner peace and confidence, visit thefearandanxietysolution.com.
It's that time of the year again. The Woman of Wisdom Fall Harvest Festival is right around the corner. Join us on October 1st from 10:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. at North Seattle Community College Conference Center. Admission is free. Festivities include arts and crafts, energy healers, intuitive readers, delicious food, and more. Don't miss this fun-filled event. For more information, visit womanofwisdom.org. That is womanofwisdom.org, and we'll see you there.
There are so many resources out there for meditation. But did you know that Atana's Heart Earth Healing Meditation is available for you for free? Yes, that's right. You can receive this free healing meditation today from Atana Badili. All you need to do is visit his website, atanamethod.com. That's ATAANA method.com, and sign up. You will receive your free meditation instantly. That's atanamethod.com.
We're back on Voices of Women. I'm Kris Steinnes, and we have Tami Lynn Kent with us. She's the author of Wild Creative, Igniting Your Passion and Potential in Work, Home, and Life. First, Tami, can you give your contact information and what you have available on your website?
Yeah, sure. My contact information, my website is wildfeminine.com, and you can find out more about the books that I've written, the 3 books I've written, and also the workshops I do. I teach workshops every year, and particularly I teach providers how to do holistic pelvic care with women and how to work with the creative field to help women. So that's a wonderful, powerful class that I teach a few times each year, and you can find out more there.
Okay, great. So we've been talking a lot about this creative, wild creative, and accessing the feminine into all this. So, what are the practical aspects to how to use this creative process in your life?
Yeah, and it's something I think everyone should take really seriously because we are here to do the work that we're meant to do, and one way we do that is by understanding that each one of us is deeply inherently creative. That's really important to me. It's not that someone has talent, someone else, isn't creative, is creative. We all have creative energy that we're meant to use and cultivate. So I really want to see people understand that it's important to take that energy seriously and use it in your life. So I have several tools in Wild Creative. One thing that I think is important, and I ask people this, do you know what your creative dreams are? What are your dreams for yourself? What are your dreams for your life? And I think everyone should be able to name them. They should be that close because we can get distracted with making a life or a living rather, and we forget to make the life we're here. So understanding what your dreams are, knowing what they are, and then I like to use a practice where every year I set intentions, and I go through that in Wild Creative, so I encourage you to just pick up the book and look at that. But make 5 to 7 intentions that have to do with your whole life. So don't just over-focus on work or don't just over-focus on relationship, but think of your whole life and make 5 to 7 intentions that have to do with the dreams you have for yourself, for the partnerships you want to have, for the rhythm you want to have, for the work you want to do, for what you're here for what your priority is this year. Maybe this year is your priority just to do some deep healing, and you make space for that, and that's part of your creative practice. So setting those intentions, and that gives you kind of a plan for the year. And I do this every year, and I've done this for about 20 years. So I write these intentions, and then I watch them through the year. So I take time every month. Sometimes using the moon is helpful, like full moon, new moon. Like think of, okay, I'm going to pick up my intentions. I'm going to just check in on them and see where they're at. Just read them, hold them close to your heart, ponder, and just that activation, you start to find that you will find more of your creative work getting done just by holding them closer in your field and paying attention. Things start to happen with those dreams, and you'll see your dreams starting to come. It's like planting seeds. If you don't plant seeds, you're not going to grow a garden. So this is dream seed planting, intention setting. And then another aspect that Kris and I were just talking about is the rhythms that come through. And this is sort of what I think of. It's like a farmer. You plant your creative seeds, and then there's the year that happens, right? There's the rhythms that come through that year. There's the sun and the rain and the interactions that you have that come through. So you can pay attention to what I call creative rhythms. And these are ways to sort of work with them day to day and just see what the rhythm is happening in your life. And I go through these deeper in Wild Creative, but the first rhythm that comes through is invitation. And that's sort of the earliest, like, oh, I feel like I might want to work on this aspect of my life. And that's the newest exciting beginning. And sometimes people don't get past that because, the new part, the exciting part, the, pondering is where the energy's at, and they don't move to the next phase. So you want to make sure you find an invitation or two that might have to do with your intentions. Let's say you set your intentions, that I'm just going to use health because health has been a big one I've been working on this year. So one of my intentions was really to strengthen my overall health. So I knew that was on one of my intentions. So when I had an invitation that matched that, when something was going to help my health, I paid more attention to it than I would have because, I knew it was important. So the next piece of that creative rhythm is preparation. And this is where the work comes in, and I think this is sometimes where we get bogged down. We like the fun new invitation, but the preparation is where the work is happening. Like to heal, there are certain things you have to do. You have to work with your food. You have to work with your exercise. You have to maybe make appointments and go and set those up. And it takes time, and it takes energy, and it's not as glamorous. But the work is, that's the tending of the creative field. So you want to get through preparation. And then as you work through it, you get to these deeper levels that the next two I call inspiration and the celebration. Inspiration is those aha moments that start to come when you've worked with something for a while. You start to understand it. You start to see either where you're vulnerable and you need to do more work, or you might see where you're having success. And then you come through to celebration, which is like the peak. We kind of all want to get there, but too often we try to skip from invitation to the celebration. And, there's real work in between. Anybody that's ever done anything, that's manifested anything in their lives, there's been work that they've done to get to that point. So it's understanding that comes before that celebration moment that we might all want. And then the last phase of that rhythm is restoration. And that's where you sort of take the knowledge, you take the aha, you take the work, and you put it away, you tuck it in, and you get ready for the next cycle. And, those are some ways to work practically with creative energy so that you really can focus on creating the dreams that you want to create for yourself in your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a great tool. So there are it's like steps, but it's a rhythm. And it sounds like you get into repeating this rhythm because the last step of going to restoration is kind of like that fallow stage where you just sort of let things.
Yes, you let them rest. And I think, so like when I'll put this in terms for me of like book writing, I went through these phases with each book where, it was a finished process. And then where I'm at now with writing, because I wrote so much, I did so much work. Now I really need a longer fallow period. So I'm not in a writing phase. I'm in more of a rest phase that's longer. So these cycles can be something simple that might pass in a week, or it can be a big creative project that is a longer year-long cycle, or maybe even a 5-year cycle, or it could be, have to do with child rearing, where you go through the deep process, or maybe you repeat it a few times and then you have an empty nest, and now you're in, the recharge before the new invitation. So these cycles play out. I mean, we really are rhythmic creatures. We are supposed to be seasonal, and I think we forget that sometimes in that masculine do mode. And so each one of us should know, that we have ebbs and flows, and when we have a lot of outer, we need to put the inner in order to restore, and that's what creative rhythms look like. You aren't always outputting something, and if we set ourselves up to feel like we're only good or we're only lovable or we're only successful when we have something to show for it that's tangible, we're missing all of these deeper aspects of these cycles that are necessary for replenishment.
Mm-hmm. Well, and this brings me to another question, and you've mentioned it before, because I would imagine during this cycle there's times we get creatively blocked or
Absolutely.
out of touch. And so how do you teach people to, I know we all want to move, we have work with it, we all want to move quickly out of these blocks,
right.
and sometimes we can't.
Yes. I think blocks are there so we can learn what we need to learn. And so sometimes they're to slow us down. When I ran into that block in the publishing world, they aren't always ours either. Like I ran into a whole systemic block. So it's kind of looking like, okay, there's a systemic block, but they often will serve a purpose. And so the thing is to look at, you want to get support for working with that block. So when you hit a block, sometimes it's there to slow you down. sometimes it's there because it's really not the right direction. So I think it's kind of feeling into that. Sometimes if we're trying to push something with our ego, like we really want something but it's not happening, it's good to look at, is this my ego or is this my deep soul desire? When you get in touch with your soul energy, you can see that a little more clearly. Like, this is an ego thing. I think I need to just sit down and not keep trying to bang my head against this wall. But, you're working with the block. Either way, the block is teaching you. It's teaching you to deepen your relationship with spirit and rely less on the egoic progress, or it's telling you it's not right timing. So, do something else, see where the flow is and work with that. So, like for me, when I ran into that publishing block, I went to the land, I went to prayer, and I started getting this download of this class I began teaching called Realigning with a Great Mother, and a lot of that work is in Wild Creative. And so I got this open green light, like, teach this. This is really an important class. So I taught that, and I ended up teaching that over the next few years, and that was where the energy was supposed to go. So I could have sat there and built up a lot of frustration and banged my head against the wall and felt, despair. So you don't want to do that with a block. You want to go, okay, where are my resources? Where's my flow? Where do I need help or support? Where do I need to go deeper? Do I need to work with a practitioner? Do I need energy work? What do I need to help me? And where's the flow really right now? And what is this block teaching me? Is it giving me more time, more depth? What is it here for? And when you come at it at that level, it's not really a negative. I mean, I know we all would like to just climb right over those, but they're there to teach us. They are there to give us different and deeper skills if we will sit with them and work with them.
Yeah, so true. Yeah, and to take a look at, why is this block in my life and what is it telling me? And you're right, we sort of bang our heads and that's sort of doing things the yang way and the masculine way of trying to make something happen, putting, a square peg in a round hole and to just, stop and do something different, like you say, get away from it so that you can get some distance. Yeah.
I think if we learn to have faith and not necessarily take things personally, I think there is a lot of, it can feel personal, I'm not good enough or I'm not strong enough, but instead if we can kind of relax into there's a purpose in this, I just don't know it yet, and I'm going to just allow this to take time to show me. And usually most people can look back and say, oh, that block really did cause me to deepen my process, deepen who I was, call in other resources, wait for better timing. There's so many things you can kind of see clearly. So if you can trust the process and trust the creative flow while using your creative skills. I mean, while creative, there's a lot of skills to help you when you're in those kind of holding places, to not feel like you're wasting your time, but you're actually deepening. Because there are ways in which we can meet blocks that aren't helpful for us. So if you can come into more of a faith understanding of the energy flow and really deepen, it is like, I keep going back to the analogy of a farm, but I think it's really true with our creative harvest. If you understand from a farmer, I'm going to trust this land, I'm going to trust this crop, I'm going to trust this ability. I might pull in more resources to help me, but ultimately I trust my relationships with this creative field.
Yeah, trusting. Okay, well, we have, it's time now for another break, so we'll come back in a couple of minutes and talk more with Tami Lynn Kent.
Calling all Intuits, healers, and readers, you are invited to the Women of Wisdom Fall Festival. Join us as we celebrate the bounty of our Mother Earth on October 1st at North Seattle Community College. We're looking for a variety of practitioners and experts in the art of energy healings, intuitive readings, and bodywork. If you are a reader, healer, or an artisan selling handmade arts and crafts, we invite you to share your gifts with the Women of Wisdom community. Go to womenofwisdom.org to apply.
How would you like increased health and vitality? How would you like to avoid the onset of disease as well as slow the aging process? This is all possible through a simple, safe, and natural process. Every day we are either moving toward wellness or away from wellness.
Hi, I'm Mary Jane Mack. I'd like to be your partner in achieving optimal health. Contact me now at maryjanemack.com or call 425-392-0659. Visit maryjanemack.com.
Sky Siegel co-hosts one of today's most popular psychic shows, Angels and Answers, with Artie Hoffman, as she communicates healing messages from the spirit world. These messages can be astounding, enlightening, and life-changing. Born with the God-given talent of inner guidance and the amazing ability to heal, Sky has healed thousands of people. Schedule a reading with Sky now. Call 908-500-1474 and visit skyofangels.com.
Get ready to rid yourself of all that is weighing you down and holding you back from living the life you want for yourself. Coming Clean, The Art of Transparency with Catherine Moss is a hit show for women in recovery who are ready to live life on purpose. Tune in and let Catherine help you live your truth one day at a time. Live each Tuesday, 9 a.m. Pacific on TransformationTalkRadio.com.
Get into it for 2016. Do you want more prosperity, clarity, energy, and balance in your life? Join Lynn Brown now for one of her amazing workshops, each focusing on a key part of living your best life. For more information and to register for one of these amazing workshops, visit lynnbrownevent.com. That's lynnbrownevent.com. And get into it this 2016 with Lynn Brown.
Hi, this is Leslie Fontaine, and my show is Sheer Alchemy on TransformationTalkRadio.com. When we're bogged down with our emotions, the hardships that plague us in our relationships, at work, our finances, we literally can't see the higher plane where we could be operating from. Tune in to Leslie Fontaine, Sheer Alchemy on TransformationTalkRadio.com.
Welcome back to Voices of Women. I just loved this topic on the wild creative with Tami Lynn Kent, and I really encourage people to check out the book. She's, there is, like she said, there's a lot of tools and processes and stories, and we learn from stories, and she brings all this expertise of having worked with so many women. So thank you, Tami, for that. I want to go into one of the aspects in your book is our creative lineage, and that's, the patterns from our parents, our families, and even, probably goes back generational that we've lived with over the years. They aren't always productive for this positive creative energy. How do you help people to eliminate those patterns from your family, or just deal with them? Maybe they're not always that you need to eliminate them. Maybe you need to, how do you need to shift it?
Yeah, so I think, Kris and I were talking in this break about just how there's also these positive imprints and these strength and flow. And that's why, like in India, someone will say, I'm a fourth-generation tabla player, because they understand the strength of lineage behind them in that creative flow. So I think one of the first things is to look at where you have strength and see where you have strength. Some people have a lot of creative ability just being in a creative family. Other people don't have that experience, but they might have perseverance. They might have a hard work ethic, and having a work ethic can really help you hone your creativity, because most creative people that actually do use their creativity work at it day after day as a practice. Like William Stafford, who is one of the most prolific poets in Oregon, he got up every day and wrote for 2 hours every morning before people got up. And one of the things he's known for is literally his practice of writing. And some of the days he wrote things that weren't very good, a lot of the days, but then these gems would come through because he worked at it every day. So we can all look to our lineages and just see, okay, where do I have places of strength that I can draw on? And then more frustratingly probably are the places where you maybe got shut down or limited in your creativity. And part of that is because people maybe make decisions about creativity, like I'm not a good drawer, so therefore I'm not creative. Or, people will often say I'm not that creative, and that is a learned thing. That's not, we don't come in as children thinking that. So somewhere you learned that your creative range was limited. And so part of the process is stepping into a deeper range. There's a lot of exercises for that, but the first one is just knowledge, knowing that you are limiting your own creativity and taking that idea and starting to set it down and think, okay, what is creativity? Where am I using it? Where would I like to use it? And then setting intentions around it. Like maybe you want to start writing, then you want to start writing. Someone asked me how to be a writer, and I said, well, you've got to write every day, take classes, start to expand yourself in that area. Any place that you have curiosity, maybe people didn't cook in your family and you really want to cook beautifully, you might need to get some help. You might need to get some classes and expand your capacity for that. That's part of expanding the lineage range, is knowing where you may have limited yourself and then changing that by actually bringing in resources and support. And then the other thing I wanted to say about that is, as you reclaim things, like let's say you're reclaiming your own personal expression. Let's say you are now, maybe you take voice lessons, you decide you're going to start singing, and in your family the voice was shut down a little bit, so expression was squelched a bit. It doesn't always feel good, as the first thing that you encounter when you start to reclaim an aspect of your creative range that wasn't there for those before you, is it often feels uncomfortable or almost like you're doing something wrong. And that's because we do rely on our family, especially in the early years, so we're coded pretty strongly to stay in the range of what's acceptable in that family system or that tribe. It's almost a survival instinct. So you want to know this so that you don't stop yourself. Like, let's say you get up and you start singing and you start sharing yourself and you feel kind of crummy. That's a feeling that comes with expanding the range. So I've learned to see that as a positive thing, that, oh, I'm expanding the range where others didn't go before me, and that's why I don't feel very good about it. I feel a little vulnerable, a little shaky. But on the other side of that, if you keep doing it, you get stronger and you strengthen, and then pretty soon you're ready to take another step. And that range gets bigger and bigger, and your joy around it will come, but it may not be the first thing you meet.
Yeah, and sometimes we stop ourselves from that first thing, like, oh, okay, this didn't work. It's just not going to work. I'll have to try something else.
Well, and I think shame and vulnerability, in Brene Brown's work, she really hits this nail on the head. She calls it like a shame hangover. Like, even as she's sharing this truth that is profound, that so many people have validated, she would feel sick after she talked or doing the TED Talk, because there is this sort of feeling of shame as you start to step into these forbidden places, if you will. They're unconsciously forbidden, but the coding is such that it's almost survival. So you have to be aware of that and know, okay, this might stop me, but it's not going to stop me because I'm aware of it, and I'm going to be aware of it, and I'm going to support myself, maybe have a friend conversation or have a counselor, or write a letter, and just know you may encounter these things, but that's part of changing the landscape to give a more full creative range that is your birthright.
Mm-hmm. And one thing I was thinking when you were talking is like, being creative, sometimes we think of creative people, well, they're artists or they're actors or they're singers, and creativity is anything.
So many things. Yeah, I mean, it's how you put food together. It's how you put a home together. It's how you put yourself together. It's putting on clothing in the morning and how you feel. And it's about how you weave your life together. I look at one of the most important creative things I do is actually weave the year for our family. I kind of look at it and I kind of sit with it, and I weave in different aspects of, taking time together and having fun together. And that is one of the most important places I use my creative energy. And it's a pretty unsung place. Nobody really knows about it except me. And then my, particularly children aren't going to be, cheering on my creative energy for that. It's how we weave our lives, in a daily basis. And that's one of the foundational aspects of creative energy that's so important, that we all have the right and should be accessing.
Mm-hmm. So what last message do you want to leave our audience?
My last message would be that you are all inherently wildly creative. You were born that way. You came through the spirit door with all of that beauty and all of that potential. And I would just encourage you to find where you may have lost touch with that, to regain touch with that and begin using it daily, because not only will it benefit you as a person, as an individual, it will benefit all those around you, and it benefits our world. We need everybody to be in their wild creativity. That's what brings the beauty forward for all of us.
Oh, and that's an important point of that it's not just for you. It benefits the world. It benefits your, and look at the benefit, for your family, what you do for your family of creating this sort of seasonal year and putting in things during the year that they may not even, and there's this aspect of you don't do it for recognition.
Right. Actually, that's a really important point, Kris. I think we somehow think, and I think we do this unconsciously too, that if we're good at being creative, there will be recognition or something will be created that we can all celebrate on, visibly. Yeah. And probably the most important thing is to understand that most of creative energy is unsung, is not even meant to necessarily create anything visible, but it's the gold thread in our lives.
Yeah.
So it's very important.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Tami, for being on the show today.
Thank you, Kris. I so appreciate the space you hold for women and for these kind of conversations.
Yes, and thank you for your book. I want everybody to check it out, Wild Creative, Igniting Your Passion and Potential in Work, Home, and Life. Go to www.wildfeminine.com. So I'm Kris Steinnes, the founder of Women of Wisdom Foundation, and again, as I said in the beginning of the show, I want to remind you today is the launch of our crowdfunding campaign. It's very important for us to continue. We've been 25 years and want to have this great conference and continue the work that we do for women, and we would appreciate the help. Anybody can contribute to keep the spirit of alive in Women of Wisdom. Also, this week I've always been announcing my Women of Wisdom book. It's an Amazon bestseller, an award-winning book. I just turned it into a Kindle. It's now available on Amazon as a Kindle book, so check that out on Amazon. Women of Wisdom, Empowering the Dreams and Spirit of Women. And mark your calendars, February 16th through the 20th for our conference, our 25th conference, and we'll be starting to have more information up on the website. We'll be changing regularly now between now and the end of the next month of new information of what's going to happen then. And our Fall Festival, October 1st at North Seattle College. Come join us, come visit, get a healing, get an energy reading, buy holiday presents from the great artists that we have at the Fall Festival, and also there's still some booth space available. So check us out at womenofwisdom.org. So everybody have a great weekend, and it's actually equinox time too. So we'll talk to you next week.
You've been listening to Voices of Women with Kris Steinnes. Tune in each Friday at 1 p.m. Pacific Time, 4 p.m. Eastern Time for Voices of Women Today, radio with Kris Steinnes.